What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Izzy versus me, Izzy, and we have a great show lined up for today. So I want to get to it immediately, but before we get started, I want to give you my plugs for this week. I just want to share with everybody what's going on this week. I will be at the Queen's Comic Party this Saturday. It's going to be a great time. Go check it out. I have some great giveaways to give out. I might even have this nice sketch comic book with a whole bunch of artists doing some work. So go out to the Queen's Party if you're in the Queens area. Go to Everyone Comics. This is my plug to go there and check out the place there. Again, we got to support our local comic book shop because we want to have a lot of more of them. All right. So another thing I want to talk about is our June winners. June's winners. The Incredible Hulk comic book issue 6 was given out. I got a chance to give the comic to the winner, Real JPM. So if you're watching out there, congratulations and thanks for being part of the Izzyverse. Now, how you're asking yourself your question, how can I get myself a free comic book? Well, the way I do it is very simple. When you go to the Izzyverse channel, you will be entered into the giveaway when you subscribe and you leave a comment. So if you leave a comment at any one of our July videos, any one of my July videos that are coming up, this is the July giveaway, the Amazing Spider-Man #1, Ryan Gonzalez variant comic, courtesy of Comic Exposure. So special thanks to the Comic Exposure guys with that comic book. And again, go out, all you gotta do is just leave a comment. You can leave it in any July video and you qualify to win that book, guys. So with that being said, I want to welcome to the Izzyverse two guys that I met at Free Comic Book Day over at Spider's Web. So shout out to the guys in Spider Webs over at Yonkers, right across the street from the casinos. First, I'm gonna introduce Christian.
Hello.
What's up, Christian?
Hey.
And
Hello,
James. There we go.
What's up, guys? What's up?
Guys from Fugitive Poems. I always say poets, but it's Fugitive Poems Comics, guys.
Well, we are poetic, so.
Yeah, that's what you guys messed me up with. It's like, you guys are poets, man, but you're poem.
It's mostly dirty limericks for me, but
there you go. All right, but before we start talking about, Fugitive Poems or anything like that, I want to take this time and I wanted to welcome you guys both to the show before we move forward with it and talk a little bit about something that occurred today. Just got the news today that famed writer of popular books like Judgment on Gotham, Batman, Judge Dredd, Shadow of the Bat. He also was very influential in writing Lobo. For those of you that are Lobo's lovers, we lost a great one today. We lost Alan Grant. So, guys, what's your thoughts on Alan Grant's legacy and what he left behind in comics?
Dude, when that Christmas special came out, I bought it. It was the 90s, so I was buying every new thing that came out, which is why the market got oversaturated. But
you're the reason?
Me. I bought 15. If it had a foil cover or 15 I had 15 copies of it. But that Lobo, I remember picking that off the shelf and my Catholic guilt overwhelming me. Is this okay? He killed Santa. But I was also so thrilled by the audacity of it. I love Lobo is one of my 3 favorite. I'm a Marvel guy, but I have 3 favorite DC characters, and Lobo is one of them. And it's because of Alan's writing. The stories that he used, Lobo in, the stories he told were so wild. and hysterical and just wrong, but really well written as well. I'm so sorry to hear he went, and damn, did he leave some great stuff behind.
Oh yeah, James. What about you? What's your memory of Alan Grant's writings?
Uh, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know a lot about it. I was not into a lot of the comics early on. I do remember Lobo just because I'm such a metalhead, and I remember seeing, I'm always more of an art guy, so seeing these covers sort of brings back some memories. But
Yeah, Simon Bisley.
yeah,
You like Isley a lot.
it's always a shame when you lose, someone who has a lot of talent and is really investing themselves in their work.
Yeah, and for me in particular, Lobo was one. He was Deadpool before Deadpool, without the whole fourth wall thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he was what Deadpool is. Like a lot of people don't realize how cool of a character Lobo was and still is to this day. People just look at him and like, oh yeah, he's just a knockoff of a Wolverine, a knockoff of a Deadpool. He is not.
No,
He is his own thing. Like as we say, he's the main. Like he calls himself the main man, right? But it's funny, Christian, that you mentioned the comic book, the Christmas comic book, and you said your Catholic guilt. I have a very similar story, but with the other book there, the Lobo's Back book. I remember when Lobo's Back came out, right? And I remember going to my local comic book shop, which is still there, and I actually visited this week, Fordham Comics. Shout out to Phil, to those guys. Still there, it's still standing, man. It's on the third floor. And man, when you take those stairs, sometimes you're afraid that you're not gonna make it. But but I remember picking up Lobo's Back that day, and again, if you look at the cover, I don't know if you guys can read it. It's just a strongly suggestive for mature readers.
Yeah.
But it's a cover, so it had literally four covers within the covers, right? So as you open it, it says, "So kid, put it back now."
I forgot that.
Hey, Izzy, what's the time frame on that book? Like, what year was that?
90.
I could get it, but I don't have it in front of me, and I have to do some research. And it's in the 90s. It's definitely the 90s. It's a 90s book.
Early or late?
I want to say mid, actually.
I would say 92, 93.
It's cool. It's got that cool, like old school biker vibe. Bikers.
Oh no, but he was
92.
92,
and that mix of that and the hair metal bands. And,
oh yeah.
It brings back a lot of memories.
Yeah. So when I picked up this book, and I was a teenager, it wasn't that I was a small kid. I was a teenager at the time. I picked up this book, and there was this guilt that fell upon me on this book because again, it is ultra violent. They weren't kidding about being mature readers, right? And with Lobo in particular, he was very much part of that wave of violence in comics, right? That occurred in the 90s, right? Everybody's wearing black. But in his case, he was a prod. I guess you could say he was DC's answer to that, but at the same time, he was a very comedic character. So I remember in this particular comic book, he died and hell kicked him out, and heaven kicked him out. So they brought him back. That was the story. Yeah. That he was so bad that they couldn't hold him.
Yeah.
And they brought him back as a woman, like a curse, and he loved it.
I forgot that too. I gotta go grab my copy.
It's hilarious. The book is hilarious. Yeah. So the other book that not only did Alan Grant was really good at Lobo, his work on Batman and Judge Dredd was amazing. Judgment on Gotham is one of the best Batman Judge Dredd crossover events because they had a few of them, but this was like the first big one that came out. And again, Simon Bisley's artwork on this book is beautifully painted, and we're not talking digital. We're talking about works of art put into page, and just one of the best books. When the way he drew Judge Death in this book, was so great, man. So such a good story. Shadow of the Bat was another good one that he did. And Alan, Alan. Everybody talks about great Batman writers. Alan Grant, definitely one of those great Batman writers.
Absolutely.
So he will be missed. He left a legacy. Like we said, he's what Jim Starlin is to Adam Warlock and Thanos is what Alan Grant is to Lobo. He didn't create the character, but it might as well be his anyway.
Well, I mean, it's like Alan Moore with Swamp Thing.
Exactly.
I mean,
So
there is no Swamp Thing that I understand without Alan Moore, but he didn't create him. He just made Swamp Thing.
He just perfected him, man. He
Yeah.
perfected him. So,
Yeah.
so let's take this time right now. We're gonna give Alan Grant some time, and we're gonna just give him a couple of. We'll give him about a minute of, in remembrance. All right. With that being said, guys, it's time to go on and talk a little bit about Fugitive Poems Comics. So, but before we do that, let's talk about Johnny Bravo here.
Just for you. Just for you. I was in makeup. I was in hair and makeup for 20 minutes before the show. I look at my phone and you're like, "You're gonna sign on?" I'm like, "Wait." My wife put this together. So I had put on Twitter, should I get a haircut with a photo of my massive fro? Should I get a haircut, Izzy, for the show, or should I rock this? And you said only if you come on as Johnny Bravo.
And you took it to heart.
My wife got to work and did the best that she could, and I think she did a damn good job.
Hey, there you go. You got the Johnny Bravo. Now you just got to get the Ray-Bans.
That's
right. A serious pompadour.
You know what I'm saying? It's like he made it happen. So that was awesome. It's funny because I went to get a haircut today as well, as you guys can see, a nice clean cut. Luckily for me, I didn't get caught in that rain that was going on. So that was crazy. But Lebowski 2024, I'll do it. I'll vote for him.
Absolutely. That's a great shirt, dude. I hadn't seen that.
This aggression will not stand, man.
There we go. We got Evan who's watching, saying, look at Evan's photo.
Evan puts Christian to shame.
There you go. Look at that thing.
Possible way.
We're gonna start something here, man. Wow, guys. So okay, let's start joking around. Stop joking around for a minute, and let's talk a little bit about Fugitive Poets. While we wait on Christian, James, you could tell me a little bit about Fugitive Poems. What in the meantime?
So we've been doing this for about 6 years now. A couple of years of poking around, not really knowing what we're doing, and just developing. Christian and I had worked together for years, but didn't know each other that well. And he was going back and forth with another friend of ours, and his name's Michael Gracia. Do you know?
Yes, of course I know Michael. Michael's a friend of the channel, so he's part of the group.
So Mike was also working with us, and they were going back and forth about a script, and I got a hold of the script that Christian was working on, and I was very impressed with it. And I just decided, hey, I had never really drawn comics before. I come from more of a, it's all illustration, but like kind of single illustrations and painting and stuff, not really comic books. So, but I was really taken with his storyline, and I just drew out hit the particular character that stuck out to me. Her name's Pam. She's walking down Fifth Avenue in New York, and that's sort of how we got started. And we were also working on ironically, sort of a children's book. I had shared that with Christian as well. I just had drawn some characters and asked him to write something out of it, but that kind of fell to the wayside when we started doing this more, I guess,
mature
comics. We definitely need that mature sticker like they had on that book there. So my art style really kind of lends well to comics. I always have this. I've always had this sort of strange surrealist style, and people would like my paintings and stuff, but they're always like, oh, I really like that, but I can't hang that on my living room wall and stuff like that. So the comics were sort of a natural fit for me, and Christian and I just turned out to be really simpatico together. So it's been a cool experience.
It's been
Christian's
the best.
Yeah. So Christian, you tell me a little bit about how you got involved in the process.
I'm so sorry. I'm not laughing at you. Casey just made the Casey Allen.
Oh yeah. We got the comment.
ComicJam.com, and we got Jack Van Thom and Summer Steinhardt here as
I
well.
can't see
Oh
the-
yeah, we got some good stuff here, man. Look, James,
Oh,
you're getting
really?
a nice little
That's
shout out
what-
there.
That's what I was laughing at.
There you go. You should do a Doom metal band. Absolutely, man. He has the look, man. There's a wrestler. His name is the Butcher from AEW. That's what I immediately think of when I see James, man. It's so metal, right?
I played bass in a Judas Priest cover band. That's about as far as I
Oh,
got.
there you go. Close enough, man. Christian,
good
they
enough
want
for
you to
my
do the monkey.
Yeah.
Little
remember.
too much alcohol and other substances kept me from being a really high end. I had a lot of fun, but kept me from being in the big concert halls.
There you go. So, Christian, tell me a little bit about how you got involved in comics in particular and started working with James.
Well, the answer to how I got into comics is the man himself, Michael Gracia, who I worked with, and he knew that I was a writer. I had written novels and screenplays and a bunch of other stuff, and he said, "You ever write comics?" And I said, "I'm a lifelong comic fan, and no." And the reason for that is I had wanted to draw comics when I was a kid, and I was going to be a comic book artist. And then one day, I don't know what happened. There was like my third eye opened, and I saw my work for real. And it was freaking terrible. I can't draw.
There's I hear a lot of writer stories of writers who say they were artists and they just couldn't do it. They believe they couldn't hack it. But
No,
the reality of it, to me, I think anybody could do it. I think it's just a matter of patience. Obviously, there is a level of skill that comes along with it and talent, and just having the creativity that goes with it. I think anybody could draw. My personal opinion, anybody could draw. It's that who could draw masterpieces is a different story. So,
I'm going to disprove two things.
I got some great artwork from Christian.
In the swimming pool, I'm the guy who can't float. They say everyone can float, and I'm the guy who can't draw. Trust me.
let me put a zoom in there.
Oh wait,
Okay,
TJ.
it's okay. We hardly noticed it.
This is from our latest epic.
This is for an upcoming anthology for the ComicJam.com, a wonderful, wonderful group of people, and they're putting out an anthology, and that's how the drawing's going to look in it.
This is what our next book's going to look like. So,
There you go.
go out and buy it.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Fugitive Poems. I'm gonna go ahead and put up into the stream one of the books, Containment Breach. Right, this is the book that you have. It's a Myth Reborn. Talk to me a little bit about this book, and first of all, how people could get it, and explain to me the story and the concept behind it.
Well, let's start with how people can get it. We've had we've had a huge positive reaction to it. It funded in 36 hours on Kickstarter.
Congrats!
177% funded by the time it was over, and everywhere we've been doing signings, and people have been ordering online. So if you want it. I've been messing with our Fugitive Poems site, so right now, as far as the cart goes. So if you want it, DM Fugitive Poems, and I'll get in touch with you, and you can order from me that way while I fix this. I'm trying to change the way the cart works, and I'm not as successful with these things as I should be. But yeah, if you DM me at Fugitive Poems, I'll get you a copy of the book. I sent out about, I think, 12 of them just today. They've been going out. And it was a huge hit, and it was such a cool thing to put together. You asked me earlier how I got involved in comics. Michael Grassi asked me if I'd ever written one. And James talked about getting a copy of a script that came to me on my own after Michael had gotten me rolling. He started drawing that, and then I started talking to other people on Twitter. I constantly have this tendency to want to think badly of Twitter because of all the terrible stuff that goes on it. But I have met some of the greatest people that James and I work with now regularly on Indie Comics Twitter. And whether it's the folks in the Comic Jam or it's Matt Queen, who actually was part of, he's the reason that this happened, which is Containment Breach Volume 1. Him and I having a conversation is what made Fugitive Poems do their first foray into anthology comics. And that's allowed us to work with some of these incredible people and really establish our mission, which is to raise the banners of as many indie people as you can. You know, one of the things that you discover quickly is you can't get published until you're published.
That is correct.
Right. And that's sort of a hard hill to climb.
No one's going to read your comic if your comic's not out.
Right. And I had talked to a marketing director at Marvel once about it. And I said, well, how does somebody who doesn't have a lot out there, pitch? He says, well, you want to get a lot out there. And I just looked at him and he said, yeah, I heard how it sounded as soon as I said it. So what we decided our mission was to help people out there who are doing amazing crap and not being seen get seen. And we have had, out of the 2 volumes we've done so far, we have already had a bunch of our creators who were published for the first time with us go on to getting published in other places, and the momentum has started. And that's what we wanted. So Containment Breach Volume 2, Myth Reborn. Volume 1, we did sort of like a zine and playing around. We got essays in there. We did it like 90s zine style. And it was a lot of fun. But when we decided to do Volume 2, we said, well, let's see where we can take it. And Volume 1 is 48 pages, mixed media, right? Mm-hmm. Volume 2 is 162 pages of comics, indie comics, never before seen, never before written. And that's Heather Antos got her name out there. She did a fantastic anthology and went for exactly right. But that's what we want to do, and we want to keep doing it. Myth Reborn is a huge hit. People love it. The artists and writers are incredible, and now we're doing volumes 2 and 3 and 4 at once.
Yeah, congratulations on that. And you know what? In this landscape that we're in, we are, having more indie comics is more accessible than it was even 10 years ago. When I was doing comics, like when I was actually doing comics, right? Years ago, was about 10, 15 years ago, Michael Gracia would know this because I was part of the original Pronto. We call them the Pronto Originals. That's what we call ourselves because we were the original. I want to say 12, maybe 15. I'm not sure. I lose count. But the original 12 to 15 artists and writers that got together and say, you know what, we may not be able to do it by ourselves, but if we did it together as a collective, we could take out some books. And we ended up doing it. And even to this day, Pronto Comics still stands. I'm not involved, but Dominic's, Sparano, and Dennis Knight are the guys who are currently running it, and I'm so happy that it's still out there. You know what I mean? That's something that I'm very proud to have been part of. I'm very proud to be a co-founder of the company, and I'm just happy that it's still out there. And like you guys in particular, we just started. We just did it, and the same thing goes back then. And back then, we didn't have the Instagrams, we didn't have the Facebooks. There was a Facebook, but it wasn't the same way as it was today. We wanted to get a website. We knew that we had to publish. We had to publish books because people, and we had to get them in the hands of people. So we knew we had to do shows and things like that. So you guys are doing a show next week. You're doing your first show, Terrific Con.
We are.
Yeah. Congratulations, man.
You got a corner booth
as well. That's really good.
Yeah, got James working the corner.
Yeah,
be a good part.
Yeah. So tell me what's your excitement level with Terrific Con in particular?
I'm like bouncing off the walls. I'm really excited. I really feel that this is our just our arrival. We've had some success and so forth, and this is going to be our first big real public foray. We've done some comic shops and stuff, but we've never been in a place with thousands of people who are there really to see comics and art and so forth. So it's very, very exciting for me. I've been working on my portfolio, and along with how many are we working on now? Three titles that Christian and I are working on now.
Yep.
Putting it all together, and it's going to be a blast. I can't wait.
One of the cool things about James is he's the only person I know who can say I've been bouncing off the walls and not lose the utter stoicism of his expression.
That's great.
And I feel the exact same way. This is going to be so cool. People are going to get to see what we're putting out there, and I'm so proud of what we're doing. And the folks that we work with, every time we go somewhere and we get this book out into the world, people see this unbelievable amount of talent that we're. I'll show you something really cool. He's here in the chat. We had Jack Van Thom do an alternate cover poster. I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, that's a nice cover.
Isn't that beautiful? Based
Yes.
on Legend of Roland for Myth Reborn. I mean, this guy is. I hope he's not listening anymore. I don't want this to go to his head.
Well, I hope he's listening. Helps me out.
He's a machine. The man's a machine of the highest quality, and he gets an idea. We work together on Comic Jam stuff. He gets an idea, and like one night I'm sitting here and I'm working on a script, and he sends me a message about something. He says, "Yeah, blah was it was a good script." I said, "Yeah, I've got this bizarre idea in my head," and I wrote 2 sentences. Like, isn't that a stupid idea? I go back to the script. My Discord dings. I swear, 40 minutes later, and he has an entire finished page drawn around the concept that I put 2 terrible sentences out for. And he's like, "This is kind of what I'm thinking about." And I have never listened to you. See, that's what he just said. And then we also have, we got some of James's incredible work. This is inside the book.
Never listen to you. That's great.
That's James's, we call it Atomic Anvil.
Jackson, both are. He's in Containment Breach 2. We got him in 3, and I think we're trying to wrangle him into 4 as well.
Oh no, he's in 4.
He's in 4.
Nice. Yeah, Jack is.
So
That's
before you guys start talking more, I just want to emphasize something to my viewers right now. I got 8 people currently watching live, but I got only 4 likes. Come on, guys, hit that like. Give me that thumbs up. You're giving it to the fugitives here, okay? That's what I'm going to call you guys, my fugitives. And now, you're right, the fugitives. So go ahead and give that nice little thumbs up there, guys. I need that for them, because this is the kind of stuff that we want to see more of. And at the same time, man, it's just we want to build the machine, especially when it comes to indie comics. As of today, I do read my mainstream comics. I do read them. I do read my Spider-Mans. I do read my X-Men's, my Batmans, and I enjoy them. I really do. But what I'm starting to realize, especially now, especially this day and age, there are so many good comics from indie writers. You got books like Something's Killing the Children, that was just fantastic. One of my favorite books, I talk about it all the time, 8 Billion Genies. We got picked up by Amazon, right? If you haven't read that, read that. It is awesome.
Which one is that? I don't know that one.
8 Billion Genies.
Oh, I don't know.
It is so good. It is not what you expect. It is one of those comic books where, check this out, everyone in the world is given one wish, but they're all given it at the exact same time.
Ooh.
Exactly.
Wow.
So
great concept.
It is a great concept, and yeah, everything you expect happens. and some things you don't expect. So definitely support your indie books. This is a good example of supporting indie books. Fugitive Poems, I picked up when we met on back in Free Comic Book Day back in May. I took my copy. I looked through it. I read a few of it. It's been a while though. I got to go back and read some more of it. But especially with all the stuff I read these days, but I'm so proud. First of all, I'm so proud of you being a fellow comic creator myself. I'm happy that you guys get to do your first show. May it be the first of many. And I hope you guys sell out.
Thank you. The thing about Terrificon that's so exciting is that it's so indie focused, and this community is so great. Yeah, Jack just mentioned Doug Wood. And Doug Wood is one of the guys. He's been a mentor to us. Somebody I met on comic Twitter, and he's doing the same thing where he's putting people out there and letting more indie artists get seen. And he's been fantastic. That we're so lucky, and to be able to be in a room with that community, and we're going to see some people that we've only talked to online, and especially with the pandemic and coming up during the pandemic. I don't know if you got, I think you do know Pressable Defects.
I have to see them. There's so many that I can't remember everybody.
Carol, Jason Carroll goes to Spider's Web as well. And by the way, you shouted them out. Paul, Andrew at Spider's Web. What incredible supporters of indie comics.
Oh yeah, I love one thing I do love about Paul and his team and his staff is that every time I go there, there's always some indie guy with a table, and that's good. I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. I wish I could go to Spider's Web more frequently, but at the same time, when I do get to go, I just love seeing the fact that Paul is out there supporting those guys and supporting you, and then like in Free Comic Book Day, you guys were there. Damian Torres was there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the title. Earth or Eve was those guys. IRTF.
I don't remember.
So yeah, they were probably there a different time, probably.
Yeah, no, I don't remember them being there. We know Damian really well.
Yeah, Damien, he's gonna be in the show sooner or later. I've been talking to him, so we'll get Damien in the show out here soon. So it's been very busy for us. So I got a lot of stuff coming up. I got a cosplayer coming up, so I'm excited about that one. And it's not just
I did Johnny Bravo for you.
Yeah, I got like Johnny Bravo here. But just to give you guys a little insight into the people watching could know, I'm going to be interviewing Colleen Cosplayer. Now, what makes her so special? What makes her special is that she's disabled, and she does cosplay while in her wheelchair on her crutches, and it's just amazing to see that. So I'm really excited for all that stuff. I'm excited for you guys, and
She
stuff
gonna be
like
at
that.
TurboCon?
No, she's actually she's in the Pacific. I'm not exactly sure where she's at. She could be California, she could be Seattle. But I reached out to her and she was like, "Yeah, I'll go. I'll do the show." And I was like, "Yep, perfect." And I did
at her stuff right now, Colleen Cosplay. She's very cool. That's awesome that she does that.
Yeah, it's so cool, man, seeing that kind of stuff. But I want to talk more about you guys. So let's take a look at another one of your pieces here. And again, I just want to give everybody fair warning that's watching. Some of this stuff may be a bit graphic, but we're being tamed today. We got two books here. It's hard to tell which books are this, so I'm gonna just zoom in a little bit more. But you guys tell me a little bit about the two books that we're currently watching.
So that one on the left, that's our title in Containment Breach 2, named Delphine. Title also the name of the main character who's up top. The one on the right is actually from Containment Breach 1. That's Shelter in Flames.
Yep.
That was the one that the first one that we did. It's a story, real short story. It's only four pages.
Yeah.
Sort of like a sci-fi piece.
Yeah, I'm digging the rat.
Oh, we love that rat.
That rat, man. I'm digging that rat. Not to say anything about the other artwork. I think the artwork in general is fantastic, and I like putting the two pictures together because you can see the differences in the art style, where one has this more gritty, kind of almost dirty like quality to it, and the other one's a little more flashy, but you got the nice orange tones, and so that's kind of good use of color. But I just want to throw in what Evan says, to keep you guys tamed. I don't know if I could do that with Christian.
I'm channeling my classroom persona where I try not to curse. It's difficult, but I'm somehow holding myself together.
So that one on the left, I think that's the one you're calling gritty. That's done traditionally. That's with watercolors and ink. Mm-hmm. The one on the right is started off in pencils, but that's the final product's all digital. So that's probably the difference that you're seeing. Which one did you think? Which one were you calling gritty? The one on the left?
Yeah, the one with the rat.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the one with the rat.
That was the intent. The story is sort of like a Twilight Zone story, so we wanted that kind of creepy feel. So I did all that in all traditionally. I mean, it's I played with the levels and stuff in Photoshop to darken it up a bit, but that's all traditional work. So
Yeah, and it's fantastic. Like I said, I specifically like that art style because and again, there's nothing wrong with digital art. I think digital art is the wave of the future. I was just talking to famous artist Ray Lago. He was like, people got to stop calling it digital. It's painting. It's like it is. I agree. And there's things you could do that you wouldn't be able to do, and it's a different process in it. But with
big
traditionals,
is,
with traditionals, it's amazing.
big difference is Control Z. You can undo and
exactly. That's the big difference.
Undo on the real thing. So if you're an artist out there, you really gotta push both. I'll admit, I still got to go in and fix stuff digitally if I screw it up on my ink pages and stuff. But it's really worthwhile to get out there and get that stuff, get that traditional stuff in there because it carries over. I would say the traditional stuff carries over a lot more into your digital work than the other way around. There can be a lot of cheats in a digital artist. There's no cheating when it's a piece of Bristol paper and some ink. There's no cheating there.
Yeah, especially when it comes to colors, right? When you start coloring on Bristol, it's very hard to undo.
Yep.
Very hard.
You can fix some mistakes, but it's not as forgiving as being that Control Z, which is or Command Z if you're on a Mac. Undo.
James is doing some wild coloring right now, and this is my life. It's so great. I get text messages at all hours of the day with pieces of art from James. Usually something we're working on, occasionally unsolicited, where he'll get some horrendous idea in his head and draw it out. It's amazing and awesome. And only occasionally consulting. No, I wrote this story for volume 2 about this girl in her apartment and a rat. And I get him the script, and I get back this shot of a horrendous. I mean, this thing makes a subway rat look sexy. A horrendous, awful, terrible rat, and it was perfect. It was 100% perfect. And then we're working on this other piece right now that he showed you my drawings for it, and it's these kids. I have 3 kids, and they're all dying to get in here.
Mine are all dying to get away.
Oh, see, my big boy is turning 10 tomorrow.
And congrats! Happy birthday! Happy early birthday!
My boy Dashiell, I'm holding on to these moments that he still wants to be with me until he realizes what a terrible person I
am. My oldest is going to be 17 at the end of the week, end of the month. So
happy birthday!
That's incredible. My other one just turned 12. Man, they grow fast.
I met your kid. You met my boy who's turning 10. He was there that day, and we met your 2.
My 2 girls, yeah,
you 2. They were awesome.
Yeah, they're great. They're artists themselves, so they're always my kids are always drawing. They got their own style too, which I love. It's very different from my style, and I love it. I'm so happy of them.
My boy's been writing with me.
There you go.
James drew his first comic. So the Comic Jam, who I'm never going to stop mentioning because they're like the greatest group of people on the planet, Comic Jam, thecomicjam.com. They do a weekly theme, and I usually write a script for it. And one week the theme was Pokemon parodies. And I don't know jack about Pokemon, even though I'm surrounded by it. I just don't know. And I said to Dash, I said, you want to write a comic? And he said, yeah. And you never know how a kid's going to take to anything. Well, he shows up with all his Pokemon reference books. He's like, well, what kind of character do we think we're looking for here? And I'm like, and he wrote his first comic, and James found out. James in the middle of like 2 other projects. He's like, wait, it's his first comic? All right, it's got to be a fugitive poem. I'll draw it. And he knocked it out of the park. It's hanging in our comic shop in Croton here. Third Universe Comics, who have been big supporters as well. And then Dash did another Pokemon comic, and Summer, who's on here, she drew that one, and that one came out amazing as well. And we're actually bringing that next week to Third Universe Comics. Summer,
Oh, I can't.
who's
Awesome,
an
man.
unbelievable artist.
So where's this comic book shop again?
It's in Croton on Harmon, in
Mhm.
right above Ossining.
Okay.
Which is right south of me.
Let me know and I'll head out over there, man. I love to find new comic shops that I could do pull lists off of every
Oh,
week.
well, you know what?
Yes.
Let me know.
Haven't.
That's our shop. They taught my son how to play Pokemon. Brian is the guy that owns it, and he's an incredible dude. And I'd love to introduce you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd love to do a pull list there. We
That's
could
my-
definitely do a pull list. You guys know about my pull list, right?
Yep.
My weekly pull list. Oh, this week I get to do it in the Queen's Comic Party. So, but I'm also doing a pop shop. So I'm gonna go to a Spider-Man pop shop this weekend.
What is a pop shop? I don't know that.
So a pop shop is it's kind of like it's a company. A company decides to rent out a spot, right? Usually, like in this case, it's a convenience store approach, right? They rent out a spot for like a week, and they put their apparel there, and then they're gone. So a good example of a long-term pop shop is on Halloween when those Halloween shops come out.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah, that's kind of the same idea behind it, but these are even more short term. These are like a week. You're only there for a week, and a lot of times they're very theme centered.
Mhm.
So over in Queens, which I'm gonna head out. My plan is to head out tomorrow. I'm trying to remember the name of the company. I think it's called KIF. KITF. They have a pop shop that's Spider-Man themed because it's the 60th anniversary.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to be heading out over there tomorrow, and I'm also good, as I mentioned to you guys before, the Queen's Comic Party that's on Saturday, and then you'll see me at Terrific Con. So I'll be over there, and we'll do something out there for sure. But
Yeah,
I love going to shops. Yeah, I love going to shops, and I love doing pull lists. I've done them pretty much everywhere around here already. So I got to go out a little further, man. So I got to find new spots to do them, man.
and then just above me in Peekskill, there's the Rift.
Mhm.
Which is a tiny little shop that's also very indie focused.
I heard about the Riff, so I definitely heard about the Riff. I definitely want to go check them out too. So yeah, you talk to the owners, man. I'll go out there. I'll do some recordings. We could even do some shows if they wanted to.
Something different with my hair every time. I'll do Gary.
Yeah, we could have some fun. There's definitely we could do some things. I'm over here in the Bronx, so Peekskill is a bit of a drive for us. Ossany is a bit of a drive, but I've done that drive. And it's better to do it in the summertime than in the winter.
Yes.
Christian's sister's on here. She said it's in Croton Harmon.
Yep. That's Third Universe. Yep.
Third Universe. I love the title Third Universe. That's great.
Yeah. No, they're great people. We go there. They taught my boy how to play Pokemon. He goes with his friends. I hang out. I talk comics and philosophy with Brian, and it's very, very cool. But yeah, so no, they're great. They're a great shop, and I love going to different places as well. And we've been getting our book into a lot of these shops,
that's awesome. That is definitely awesome.
The Third Universe, and our book is on the freaking spinner rack, and my mind blows every time I go back to my childhood in Yonkers, running into the convenience store, the stationery store, and going to the spinner rack, and I'm on the spinner rack, and James's art is right there. Oh, so cool.
One of my dreams is to own a spinner rack, and I would have had it by now if it wasn't for my wife.
Careful now.
Oh no, I have no problem saying it out loud. She can hear me. I'm sure she can, and she'll probably say something in the background. But I've always wanted to own a spinner rack and just put comic books there. Like whenever I get new comics, I just put it there.
Yeah,
they hold more than a comic book box.
Yeah.
All right. The thing is that because they're wire, right? They're just wire put together. She's like, it's ugly, it's tacky. I was like, yeah, but it's super cool.
It's classic.
So she says no. And then my daughters are like, yeah, you can't have that, Dad. You already have this. I'm like, come on. So whenever we move out or whenever we get the girls out of the place, I'll make that into a little office, and I'll get my spinner rack.
No, it sounds like you're not going to get your spinner rack. So long as
No, you gotta get your man cave. You know how that works.
that's true. That's my office. All my
Oh,
friends.
I love this one. This is a spray painted goat and it's suddenly cheek. Yeah, she doesn't care that she's not like that. My wife is not really that materialistic in that way. So it will be nice to try to yeah, look, it's chic. Nah, doesn't work that way, man. I got this little corner of little statues and stuff like that. Running out of space for the comics. I really am running out of space for the comics.
Well, you're talking about a comic rack, and I know for a fact that Sabina's pretty chic, so maybe you should take her advice.
She knows how to make things fashionable.
There we
Yeah.
go. We'll do that. You know what I did see? Have you ever seen those drawers that are for comics that you open them up and the comics are in there? But it's a very fancy drawer, like cabinet type drawers that people make.
Like where the comics are sort of sideways. Is that what you're thinking?
No, actually, they're just. It looks like a dresser drawer.
Yeah.
They look like dresser drawers, and then you just pull them out, and there's comics inside.
No, I've not
Really,
seen
yeah. They make them so you probably catch them in like on a Pinterest or something like that.
that. All right.
But really nice stuff, you know. But again, where am I going to put it? I'm literally out of space. I might have to get a storage unit. That's how much I got so far. Got this. We're at that point, man.
Sell some, bro. Sell some.
Yeah, because my collection goes back to I started collecting in '87. That's how far back.
Oh wow.
Yeah, wooden short boxes. There you go, Jack. You have a very good wife. She must be a keeper.
Yeah, but she also wants to take them and all his other stuff and go somewhere else.
Wait. Slap for a shot. There you go. Highly recommended.
Here are those cases you've been wanting. Now get out.
Here you go. Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about the comics since that's what we're here for. Let's talk about this one in here.
Oh.
All right. Let's go ahead, guys. It's your show.
James, you want to introduce it?
Well, so the one on the left is the cover for Distributary. That's we've been working on a series called River for quite a while now. That's one of the things that we had started developing after we figured out that we probably shouldn't be trying to do big long series. We wanted to get our chops, in the, getting the comics done, getting them out, and we submitted this one into a contest, hoping to get this one funded. It'll probably what's the finished page count on it? I mean, it's not finished, but what's it going to be, Christian?
I'm not listening. I'm trying to think of what it's going to be probably around 80 pages, somewhere in that vicinity.
Yeah, so we've been working on that. Actually, but both of these are from Distributary. That's the last page on the book there, where once again I went over to traditional. So a lot of the earlier stuff was, like I said, I always start off with pencils and then I ink, but it kind of depends on when I go over to digital. I do a lot of my coloring digital. So this one's digitally colored, but the artwork's all hand done.
And this is the kind of stuff I get pictures of on my phone.
That's a transition over literally through into a different time and a different place.
Yeah, I love the lighting source that you have going on, especially with that picture in the right, in the bottom. That lighting, the way the light is beaming at that character just looks fantastic. So really good stuff. So I do have a question for you in general in regards to comics today. Why do you think horror comics are so popular these days?
I think it's just the it's with the times, and it's people are there's people that are into the Cape comics and so forth, but horror carries over into so many genres now. I think they're so popular now they're almost a little played out, but there's all those zombie TV shows and films and so forth.
Mhm.
You know,
Walking Dead kind of started that trend, as well as
yeah,
like Stranger Things,
yeah. I mean,
Lock and
look
Key.
at Stranger Things has all of that. That kid sensibility, but yet also
Hmm.
that real horror edge. There's some real scary stuff in there.
Hmm.
So I really think it's the more so than just comics. I think it's just a larger culture kind of spilling over into comics.
Evan's got a great answer in the chat there.
Hmm.
Evan Knapp, a dear friend.
Yeah, it has to be horror these days, right, Evan?
Yeah, full on. Evan Knapp is an old friend. I mean, many years, who I have never been in the same room with or the same state. We have known each other from a distance for, I mean, it's got to be near 10 years now. And
Wow.
just an incredible guy. He's been an incredible supporter of Fugitive Poems, and he's a writer and a great writer, and just an incredible guy. Thank you for chiming in and coming on, Evan.
Yeah, Evan, we're gonna have to find a way to get you guys to meet in some way, whether it's one of these things
Yeah,
or something.
we're gonna change that. Evan lives out in Oregon, and or
Oh,
Oregon.
that's a trip. That's a trip.
It's worse than Peekskill.
Yeah, Oregon, as he says, probably. But we're gonna change that up. We want to get out there, and we're gonna definitely go see Evan. He's really supported us, and I'd say he's our number one fan, which is cool. It's so cool to have people that are really digging what we do. And Oregon's a great great place. So we're gonna.
Yeah, my wife's been again, speaking about my wife's been talking about going there, and I'm like, what's in Oregon? Like, seriously. Evan, tell me what's in Oregon.
Evan is in Oregon, and that's all you need.
That's all we need, right? You convinced me.
The fates didn't want us to meet so bad that when he finally had a plane ticket to come, COVID hit. And I'm sure that's the only reason.
There you go. Peekskill is a friendly town. I will agree.
When you roll into Peekskill, they got signs there now that say that. And I get what they're doing, but I swear it makes it look suspicious. Why do you have to advertise?
But isn't Peekskill more like a county?
No,
than a town?
No. It's
a city.
It's a city. You know, a Westchester city. Nothing like Yonkers, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, for us Bronx guys, once you get past Yonkers, it's all upstate to us.
Yeah.
We're like a half hour away from Peekskill.
It's all upstate. It's all upstate, man.
New York. Get in your car, drive 25 minutes, and you're in Peekskill.
I grew up in Yonkers, and I go visit relatives in the Bronx, and they're like, "You still live in upstate?" I'm like,
"You still living upstate?" There you go. It's a thing, man. I'm living. It's upstate, man. It's all upstate.
You need to travel.
Your question really threw me about why is horror so popular. It actually put me in a spot to reevaluate my tastes. Because for a minute I thought to myself, is it more popular? Because it's pretty much all I consume. And not that I only consume horror, but I consume the dark stuff. And I always have. I've sought it out my entire life. So when you said it's so much more popular, I thought to myself, did something change? Because that's sort of the corner of the world I'm in all the time. You were talking about our stuff not being appropriate. Did you mean commuted, or did you get committed, Sabina?
She got committed.
I knew it.
Don't you just love typos? Typos are the best.
We're committed since she was born.
You don't have cows. Oh, that's good to know, Sabrina.
That's my sister. Another amazing, wonderful supporter. And I don't know if you saw it before. Should have been committed. She said that her husband, Kieran, referenced Shelter in Flames today when they had an ant problem in the house, which I thought was pretty cool. I have an idea. James and I have. We got a whole lot in the hopper, and a lot. Let me use two cliches in a row. Let me mix them. We've got a lot in the hopper coming down the pike. We've got, and one of the things that we've got on the table is a kid story, sort of in the vein of, or around the age group and intensity of Amulet, which is one of my favorite series. Do you know Amulet?
Yeah, I know Amulet.
Holy cow, is that good? And he needs to release that 9th book. It's supposed to be out in January.
Yeah.
But we have an idea, and I tell people we got a kid story coming, and they're like, no, it's probably not going to be okay for kids. And I'm like, it is. I swear it is. And my wife is like, no, it probably won't be.
Well, but that seems to be a thing, though, right? That people could go to like very mature, but then they always have like this. Well, we got a Kids Steam comic coming up too. It's like okay, but you can't put it next to each other. It's like reading Aftershock comics, right? Aftershock comics are very adult,
Yeah,
right? They may not necessarily be very violent or things like that, but they're adult themed comics, right? They're not your traditional superhero comics. And imagine Aftershock coming up with a kids romp fest. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
so.
But we have all these ideas, and the thought behind it is what is Fugitive Poems, and Fugitive Poems is independent, wild concepts, stories, and images, and we can do that for kids too. And we want it. We want to keep putting out wild stuff. And this kid story idea actually came from my 5-year-old son, who said something one day with one of his toys. And the way my brain goes, I had like 6 issues plotted out instantly. Because he has wild ideas and kids have wild ideas. And I've been talking to my students about what we're doing with Fugitive Poems. I teach college students,
Mhm.
but they're excited about the possibility. One of them was asking me today about this. How do you get an idea in your head and put it out in reality? Like, and he meant that on a deep level. Like, what is it that has to align for that to happen? And that's
Mhm.
what we want to show. And we're helping other people, other great indie artists do it who are doing it. I wanted to show you another poster. This is a dear friend I love, Jay Sheik, an incredible artist. He's got a book out with Jay Espinoza that just
Mhm.
funded on Kickstarter called Hallowed North. And this
Mhm.
is something he did for us for our Kickstarter campaign.
Mhm.
I wrote, him and I have a story in volume 3 that we're working on right now of
Mhm.
Containment Page. Man, the stuff he's already doing with it. Uh, there are these incredible talents out there with these wild ideas that don't fit any of the cliches, and
Mhm.
that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
We're not looking for I we're looking for genre bending stuff. We're looking for stuff that doesn't do what you expect. All the stories right now we're editing the stories for the comics, and that's the big thing that we're looking at. We want, when you give me the script, it's gotta pop in an unexpected way. Not that everyone has to have a twist. It's got to have a flavor to it, and that's
Mhm.
what we are. We're Fugitive Poems. We make comics, and we want them to rock. That's
Mhm.
the key.
So let's take a look at another one of your books, or another one of your titles here, Back Door to Paradise. So I got some of the panels here. So when you guys are thinking about the sequential work, I know James, we were talking earlier about beforehand you weren't a sequential artist. Um, what's the difference? I know the difference, but for people that are listening and watching, what would you say is the difference between sequential artists and then your typical cover page?
Uh, it's a matter of being more involved with. Uh, it's a lot of it's about collaboration. You're collaborating a lot more strongly with. That's one thing to get something like a job doing a book illustration or something. You read the book obviously, and then you do
Mhm.
your own interpretation of it. You can work with a art director or something, but comics is much more intimate. Uh, you're intimately involved with your writer, and he or
Mhm.
she is pouring as much into it as you are. You're doing you got the hands-on stuff, but all of that, I would never be able to come up with this stuff on my own. So it's really the big thing for me is about the collaboration, really.
Mhm.
um, the sequential stuff. I mean, the real nitty gritty stuff is also, just making sure, continuity, they call it in filmmaking, making
Mhm.
sure some of the same stuff is going on later on, and making sure you're drawing the same things. We got a funny story about Christian's wife, who pointed out in one of our earlier titles, she has a good eye, so she's pointing out that some of my characters had gloves on in some hands in some scenes, and the gloves disappeared in other scenes, and she sat and like made me this whole like collated list, and I was like, yeah, you're right. It's like so that kind of stuff. In film they call it continuity. So
Mhm.
um,
Heather is our first editor.
Oh, there you go.
Heather was our first editor. She is a huge supporter, always has been, of my art. My wife, I love her. She also will tell you everything that's wrong with something. And she's
That's
like,
good. That's good to have that.
yeah, I go to show her this story that we did, and she's like, oh, when did I miss a frame? When did she take off her gloves? And I'm like, well, what gloves? And she's like, she's wearing gloves. Oh, wait, oh, she just has fingerless gloves. Did she take the fingers off? And I'm like, oh, what did we do?
And that's really good to have, because
Yeah.
one of the things so since I've returned, um, I was listening to somebody said that you never truly leave comics. You only leave for a little while, then you always come back, right? And that statement is so true.
Hmm.
So since I've been back, I took a very, very long hiatus, right? But since I've been back on the con circuit, I've been doing it now since March, and I've had a good share of shows already. And in every single show I've been in, no one has come up to me with their portfolio. That used to be a stable
Mhm.
for an artist. When you're in a comic book convention, there will always be artists coming up to you saying, "Hey, do you mind looking at the portfolio?" And the first thing I always tell them is, I said, "Hey, listen, I'll look at your book. I have no problem looking at your stuff. But do you want me to tell you what you really need to hear, or do you want me to tell you what you want to hear?" And it throws them off, because of course they're going to say, "Yeah, I want you to tell me what I really need help." It's like, so keep in mind that I'm only doing this to try to help encourage you and to move you forward. So I would never say something like, "This artwork stinks," or "This is awful," right? If it's bad, in my view, that's fine, but I'm not going to share that with you, because that's not going to help you grow. Instead, what I say, and just like you were talking about, is, does this make sense? Does it flow? Does it has, as James says, continuity in it? If it what's different about your pinups and your splash pages from your sequential artwork is the fact that you have to lead the eye to the next panel, right? And you have to get that person from point A to point B, right to left, left to right, because of course with manga it's the other way around. But you still have to do that, and you still have to have that pacing involved. Do you want to go faster? Do you want to go slower? Do you want to be more intimate? And excuse me, and I tell people all this time, it's like, what's the best thing to do? Watch a movie, but don't watch the movie in to find out about the story. Watch the camera angles. Watch when the camera shifts to another image, or while they're having a conversation. Watch how the viewer. That's what a comic book should look like. A
Yeah.
comic book should look like a movie, in a way. A TV show, a good TV show. When it's done right, it's fantastic. When it's done wrong, it's done wrong. And it's not about anatomy. I don't care about anatomy at the end of the day. I want to know. I want to be told. I want you to tell me a story. Your style will fix itself, because if you keep practicing, you'll keep getting better.
You know what movie I think of as a comic every time I watch it? When I watched it for the first time in the 90s, I suddenly was totally taken out of the plot when this hit me. And every time I've watched it since, I think the same thing. Seven. Seven is a comic. Every
Mhm.
shot in that movie could be a panel. And I understand that there's motion going on, but the way that Fincher shot Seven
Mhm.
is a graphic novel. It's a gritty
Oh yeah,
graphic.
it's Fincher. It's
Yeah.
it's.
But that movie, more than any of his others, something about Seven that
Mhm.
I almost can see a frame around every shot.
Mhm.
James and I have spent a lot of time on this. We just, this new anthology bit that we're working on for the Comic Jam, we just swapped panels. I had written them a certain way that made sense to me on the page. He drew them that way. And once we saw them drawn, there was
Mhm.
something that was off. And we ended up shifting things around and moving things around, and boom, there it was. Because the question was not, well, how does it read on a script page, is what you just said, what's the eye going to do to it? And that's been one of my favorite things. Jack Van Thon, who just
Mhm.
wrote here that rhythm and composition, both within panels and across the whole page, are so important to interiors.
Mhm. I
um,
agree.
he did a comic that I am so proud of. It was from my wife. It's called For Heather. And it's a Dear John letter. No, I'm kidding. Uh, it's just, it's a little tribute to her. And what the idea I had for the comic was that it was going to work the way electrons move.
Mhm.
So it was going to go in a circle around the page. So one page comic, so you would start on the left, go all the way around, and end back on the left. And Jack had to figure out how to make it work. And it was done all with captioning. And he had to figure out how to make just, my thought was, well, the captions will go that way. But he had to make sure that the art did it as well. And I learned a lot there. And working with Jack on that one particular comic, and it's still one that I think about a great deal when I think about writing my paneling.
Yeah, Steranko was perfect for that kind of stuff. That's like prime Steranko right there.
Yeah,
Yeah. Another person that I think about what as far as an excellent storyteller. Um, you could debate how you feel about his art style. I know I did at one time. I think about John Romita Jr.
I love
I
his.
think I I grew to love his artwork as time progressed.
Yep.
When I first saw his artwork, when I first saw his stuff back in right before Punisher, when he was transitioning from Daredevil,
Yeah.
and his style was very, if you recall, he had a very boxy type style.
Well,
And
his nose.
yeah, his women, I don't know. I'm still not feeling his women, but what I ended up learning about his style, especially when he was doing Amazing Spider-Man with Straczynski, in particular, that I love that run. So I'm really happy that he's doing Spider-Man again. And again, I got to give Scott Hanna credit as well for being the anchor for that. What I learned about Jr. Jr. is the way he makes you move your eyes. Like if you ever take a moment and look at one of his books, whether it's Daredevil, Spider-Man, X-Men, Punisher, Batman. His Batman Punisher is fantastic, by the way. If you ever watch it, it's a fantastic book. Um, Look at how he is taking you, forcing you to move. Because it's one thing to go to panel to panel, but what he's doing is that he might do a light source that will literally make your eye go to the next panel.
Yes.
And it's things like that. Just like Jack is saying, he is a master storyteller. One
Yeah.
thing I love about guys like John Jr. is the fact that he is a storyteller. He is a director more so than
Yeah.
he is an artist. And I think we're lacking a lot of that these days. Everybody's into this whole splashy look. And dare I say, there's a bit of a house style that's going on in mainstream. The artwork's still beautiful. Don't get me wrong. The guy is like Dan Moore. That's fantastic, and is gorgeous. But there is something about the style that is very house style. Again, going back to the whole '90s trend, right? That's still it's still there in some way, right? But I think when it comes to storytelling in comics, especially when it comes to sequential art as a whole, you have to be conscious of it because again, one thing I'm seeing a lot of is I'm seeing a lot of cover artists, but I'm not seeing a lot of sequential artists, and we need to give more love to those guys. Jorge Menez is another one I like to think of. I just finished reading Batman 125.
Yeah.
Beautiful artwork,
Yep.
good storytelling. It is a complete comic book. I can't wait for the next issue.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
his stuff's amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm so happy about it.
As a writer, I have learned so much from artists about writing comics because they've come up with how the flow is going to work in the script. And James has been amazing with this, even though he just left and he's done, and the partnership is.
He will return,
Oh,
as they say, right?
I give him my script, and if he only sees a script as how he's going to draw it instantly. So he'll look at me and it just be like, he texted me today about a script, page 4, panel 3. I don't understand what's happening there. And I'll look at it and I get my hackles up as a writer. I'm like, I'm sure it's perfectly clear. But the minute he tells me he didn't get it, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't know either. Hold on, give me a second. But I have learned so much watching him panel. And I'm kind of a control freak when it comes to my scripts. Like I put in shot angles, I put in the whole 9 yards. Some newer works are focusing on individual panel compositions as opposed to the whole page. Summer said, "Yeah,
and there's a reason for that too. There is a reason for that. Without cutting you off in that sense, um, the reason for that is that comic books, mainstream comic books in particular, a lot of the artists are thinking about the digital version too. So if you ever read a digital comics, you have two ways of reading it, right? You could read it like a page, right? If you have your tablet, you can read it as a page, but if you're on your phone, you can't really, it's really difficult to read it like a page, right? So what you end up doing is you do it panel to panel. So there is that. There is also the webtoons of it all. So webtoons are very much like that,
Yep.
right? And again, it's the idea of being able to do that, but still understand the sequential lineage of it, right? Is it made up of atoms and space? It's made up of stories. You're absolutely right, Evan.
You know,
Mhm.
it's funny what you're saying there because in the '90s we started hearing late '80s, early '90s more and more about sound bites, and everyone complaining about soundbite culture and soundbite culture, and they complained about it, rightly so, but it didn't go away; it just expanded. And what we're seeing now with the Twitter, let's say, I was going to say the internet, like I'm 90 years old and I just noticed it, but with things like
The
Twitter,
World Wide Webs.
the world on the interweb. No, but you look at things like Twitter or even Snapchat and TikTok, and they're all bite sized. It's not even sound bite anymore. It's not just about sound, it's about visuals. And when James and I started releasing our comics, we knew we were releasing them for someone to look at. I was thinking on the computer and then realized, oh no, it's actually the phone. So we were doing one, really focusing on one page at a time. And now we started putting these books out and we're like, okay, I have been unshackled. It's in a book and I want a 2-page spread. I want big pieces I wanted them to be sequential over a large space. I don't want it to have to be one frame, one frame, one frame. And the books give you that freedom that when you're publishing online, you just don't have because we're not soundbite anymore. We're everything bite. We're image bite. Everything's got to be quick in and out. And if you don't do it there, that's it.
And the classics, the old books. We're talking about the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. They did their books panel to panel. So those books would read really, they would read great on a phone. They
That's true.
would,
That's
right?
true.
Because they were all contained within the panel. It's when we started breaking off the panels, which again, fantastic. I'm happy we did broke off the panels because now we have some amazing storytellers that are able to do things outside the panels. But at the same time, we have to find a way to marry the two. I would say
Yeah.
get them together to where you could have panel for panel, great work, and then have your fantastic splash page, your page number 2, 3, if you know what I mean.
Right, right. So we decided to go without panels in on these 2 pages of Shelter and Flames, and we spent a lot of time working on making sure that it would track, that you could read it,
Mm-hmm.
that you would follow your eye to the right place. We wanted it to be a wild explosion, but we also
Mm-hmm.
wanted it to work. And the biggest asset we had on these 2 pages, well, the biggest asset we have is James. I got to tell you how lucky I am. Don't let me forget to say what I was about to say about my wife, but I'm going to tell you about James first. Um,
I like that. You got to talk about James before you talk
before my
about
wife.
your wife.
I think she's putting the kids to bed. I think I'm okay. There are so many writers out there looking for artists. There are not a lot of artists looking for writers because what they do is harder. So they just sit there like the belle of the ball, like come to me and I will accept you if I want. But us writers are out there saying, "Well, write anything you want, anything." And I am so lucky that I got into comics uh, with James, with an artist. And I have been writing comics, Bros Before Saints. Well played. I'm glad you phrased that right. I would have gotten in trouble if you did it wrong. That, speaking of bros, that's my best friend since 4th grade, Mark Capitelli, and he's our senior editor. He is unbelievable working with people. And I want to talk. I'd love to talk about him in a second.
Also known as the decapitated.
Yes, the decapitated. But James, I have someone who I can throw an idea at. And James makes it a reality. I don't have to hold onto a script for 6 months and hope somebody will do it. We are partners in this, and the stories are ours. I see so many where the writer writes it and then hands it off to an artist. And the entire process for us is like this, because James will come back and draw something exactly the way I wanted it, and it'll be perfect. Or I'll say, "Ooh, that doesn't look great," and he'll be like, "I know, I did it the way you wanted it, but I wanted you to see." Or he'll come
I like that.
he'll do something not even like I wanted, and I'll say I have to go write more because you just redefined a character. He'll focus on the background character, and suddenly I have to go make them a main player because he made them so three-dimensional, right? But once we get together and we have these wild ideas like that two-page unframed spread, the greatest asset that we have is to go back to her, my wife, because I got her into comics. She was much cooler than I ever was. She didn't read comics. She was partying with the popular kids.
Was or is? I think that's an is.
Well, if you've seen my theory today, you know that I have overcome and I'm cool now.
There you go.
I started getting her to read comics.
Whoa.
And she is the ultimate critic of them. She'll pick one up and I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. This is a classic. If she gets 4 panels in and doesn't know where to go for the 5th panel, she's like, nope, out, wasn't clear. Done. And that has meant so much to us. Well, we have Heather read our comics before anyone else because Heather will stop reading. If she doesn't know what the sequential order is, if you didn't make it clear, it's not worth the work for her.
And you were talking, I'm sorry. You were talking a little bit about, writers and artists in particular. I like to think about someone who's not exactly a popular writer, but he's good. Whatever you put him with someone, he knows what that person needs. So I think of Jeff Loeb, right? Jeff Loeb, not a popular writer. Some people like his work, some people don't like his work.
Yeah.
But if you look at his Hush story with Jim Lee, right? That is a person that knew who his artist was, and said, okay, this is Jim Lee. This is, at that particular time, the biggest comic book artist we have ever. At that time, he was the #1 guy who's going on Batman. What am I going to do with Jim Lee on Batman? Am I going to give him this regular story? No, I'm going to give him this crazy story with every villain I could think of, right? And I'm going to have him do whatever he wants. Because again, with Jim Lee in particular, he's always backed up with Scott Williams inks. A lot of people talk about Jim Lee's artwork, but you got to credit Scott Williams inking, right? Because they go hand in hand. And not to say that Jim Lee's not a bad artist. He's phenomenal, right? But it's just a matter of the fact that there is this marriage between two people. And when you see him with someone else, like when you see Jim Lee with Art Draper's great, fantastic inker. He ain't no Scott Williams for when it comes to Jim Lee. But with going back to Jeff Loeb, if you look at Hush, you see he was thinking of Jim. If you look at The Long Halloween, and another person we lost way too soon, Tim Sale, you could see in The Long Halloween he knew what he was doing with Tim Sale. He's one of those guys that understands his artists. And I think sometimes we lose track on it because, like you said, a lot of these writers now, and again, this is not the case for all of them, but there's a lot of writers who are not working with their artists. They're writing the script, and they go, here you go. And then the artist is on their own. Now, the artist may contact the writer and say, hey, I read page 4 of panel 6. What do you want me to do there again? And they may have that. But as far as like co-plotting together, that doesn't exist as much as it probably should.
We have 2 people on the project right now. We wanted to do volume 3. We're going to do a volume every year of Containment Breach. We got so many incredible applicants in that we decided to do volumes 3 and 4 now because we had stuff for them. It was going to be awesome to put them together. We wanted to combine these people. And I've got a team I've been working with right now we just finalized the script, that the story was amazing. The script was amazing. And then the artist got an idea and ran with it, and it came out amazing. But the 2 did not totally match up with each other's visions. And we were looking at this incredible layout versus this incredible script, and it's the same story, but it's got a different tilt to each one. And I watch them. I'm the editor on this story. I watch them come together, deciding what worked, what didn't work. Well, what's the vibe? Well, what's the primary vibe that you want? Well, how would this work with that? Well, I really like what you did here. And they came up with this hybrid version of it that is an incredible thing. And that's what we want to be around, because that's how James and I work. And that's how I work with almost all the artists at the Comic Jam. These are people that want to work together and want to figure out awesome stuff. And I'm so proud of all our teams on Volume 3 and Volume 4. And we'll be announcing the themes. We have not yet announced the names of these 2 books. So we're going to wait till we're releasing some images. But I'm so proud of the teams that we put together, because we put together people, for the most part, have never worked together before. And we are... we've got incredible people who want to collaborate, and that's what we want, because I've learned so much from James that I would never have figured out if I was in a vacuum writing comics. I'd be making the same mistakes over and over again. Too many elements in a frame, too many frames on a page, or too little, or no connective tissue, or too much choreography. I get to hand a draft to James and find out what works or doesn't work. And I think that if you get that relationship, that writer-artist relationship, your chances of becoming excellent are with each other much higher than alone. And that's what we're seeing with these teams we put together too.
Yeah, guys, we've been over an hour, about an hour and 20 minutes. It's been a blast. Before I let you guys go, I just want to hear one thing. What kind of advice you give writers and artists today? So, Christian, I'm gonna let you do the writers. James, I'm gonna let you do the artists. So, since Christian just finished speaking, I'm gonna let James talk. James, you go first. What would you tell an artist that's starting out today?
So one of the most important things is, it sounds cheesy, but you gotta believe in yourself. You gotta keep your pencil moving. Don't give up. Don't try to compare yourself to the best comic book artists out there, because that's not you. You're not that. Maybe you are that in the future, but every artist's future is a journey, and you have to take your own path. Don't rely too much on digital. I didn't mean to put down digital artists earlier on. I got no problem with that stuff, but don't, in my opinion, you should not just rely on that stuff. You should try to get stuff out on paper, and those skill sets are going to, carry you in. It's going to make your digital art better. Don't forget to go back and learn the basics too. I see so many people that have a lot of talent and so forth, but they don't put the time in on anatomy. They don't put the time in, they concentrate too much on, especially younger kids that show me their stuff. They do spend all their time on their characters, and I say, well, you've just put in a gradient in the background. Where, what's the story of this character? So they don't just concentrate on your characters. Concentrate on the whole world. That's a big thing in comic books. You spend a lot of time drawing like just menial objects and so forth. If you can't handle that kind of stuff, then you can't get the whole story out, because it's all about that person and that person's world, or that thing. Doesn't have to be a person. Whatever it is you're drawing, that world has to all come out of your pen or your stylist. Right?
There you go. Excellent advice, James.
Keep your pencil moving. That's the biggest advice I can give. It sounds simple, but it isn't. Everyone knows if you're an artist, it's not simple.
Practice, right? That's anytime you get a chance to draw. And draw other things. Don't just draw people. Don't just draw your sceneries. Draw where you're at. Draw your home. Draw your backgrounds. Make sure you do your stuff.
Horses, hands, and bicycles, right?
Yep, exactly. And cows and buffalo. Christian, what would you tell inspiring writers?
Forget all the stories in your head. Learn math, become an accountant, and you'll be financially okay. Is that good? Do you think that's good advice for a writer?
There you go.
Give up your dreams and
there you go. Just math. Perfect timing. Right there, rock star.
And that's my dad who just chimed in for that advice right there. My advice for writers is,
and draw Christian's hair.
My advice for writers is,
I would run out of paper.
First of all,
get a typewriter.
That paper like portrait and draw his head way down.
The best advice I can give is not mine. It's the man himself, Ray Bradbury's. consume as much writing as you can. Read everything. Read fiction, read nonfiction, read comics, read novels, read everything that you can. Keep filling your brain, filling your brain. The wildest ideas I've come up with have been combinations of things that I've read that had nothing to do with each other. If you want to write noir, if you want to write sci-fi, if you want to write horror, read other things than that. Because you don't want to be aping the same stuff. And what I see over and over again, many of the writers that we weren't able to put in the Containment Breach series, because what the scripts that I was seeing was the same thing that keeps coming out. You don't, and people like, well, it's an homage. Don't do an homage. Do something new. You could do a nod. I have a lot of nods in my writing to things that I love, but consume and create and write every day. Write every day. Think you get a story in your head, stop, and we got these phones on us now that you can even speak into, right? There's no reason to ever lose an idea. I have a file that is massive on my phone just called titles. Unlike a lot of writers, I know a lot of writers hate titling. Usually I get a title and the story comes from that. I'll be in the shower and some words will pop into my head. And I'll fall and break my neck getting out of the shower to write it down. But write down every idea you got and then just take it. And then the last thing I'll say is figure out what you are. There are pantsers and there are plotters. Plotters are people that they outline everything that they're going to write before they write it. If that's you, then for heaven's sake, do it. Outline, or your brain will not be okay and you won't get the best stuff out. I am not a plotter. I'm a pantser. I get an idea, I meet the character, and I follow the character, knowing that I'm going to edit the hell out of it later. If that's who you are, don't try to outline. Don't try to outline. It'll kill your creativity. Always figure out who you are as a writer. Know thyself, the two most important words in all of philosophy. And if you're a writer, you got to find out how your process works, and you got to live that process. And that's what I recommend.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. All right. Where can we find you guys? Christian, where can we find you?
FugitivePoems.com. You can find us on Twitter at Fugitive Poems. You can find me on Twitter at the worst handle ever, at CDM, my initials, ETC. It was cool when I got my email address for AOL in high school, and I don't know why I stuck with it. And we're at Fugitive Poems on Instagram as well. And James, where can we find you?
At Jam Lines on Instagram. I also have our Facebook page up, Fugitive Poems and James Lines Art.
Can I plug someone else really quick?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
We just got, James, I didn't even tell you yet because it came in as we were getting on. Life on Saturn. You were talking earlier about people coming with portfolios. They used to come with portfolios. Well, Life in Saturn are Dom and Lydia, and they came to the Spider's Web when we were there with 3 portfolios. And James and I lost track of all the people trying to talk to us because we were completely enveloped in these portfolios. And they are in Containment Breach now because of that. We said, holy crap. I mean, they're incredible. Dom's the artist and Lydia's the colorist, and their work is just unbelievable. Well, this Wednesday at the Spider's Web, they are going to be there with their new book, Rings of Saturn. They have a very strong theme. Rings of Saturn. They're going to be there this Wednesday at the Spider's Web with copies of the book that was just released. It is all them. It is the 2 of them putting together a story. I'm telling you, these guys are going to be huge. We're really thrilled to have them in Containment Breach. If you're in Yonkers or in the Yonkers area, the Spider's Web, you want to go see Paul and Andrew anyway. It's on Central Ave across from Empire State.
Well, it's on Yonkers Ave, actually.
Sorry, Yonkers Ave.
Yeah, it's on Yonkers Ave.
My father had a business on Central Ave, so I always default to that.
Yeah, it's on Yonkers Ave. It's directly across the street from the casino on Yonkers Avenue. Yep. There's a diner a few doors down. There's a Dunkin' Donuts, but then again, that'll be weird because there's a Dunkin' Donuts in every corner in New York. Yeah. So that's not going to help you. But yeah, go check them out. They're fantastic. That's a great place. Again, very strong indie vibe in Spider's Web.
Yeah. Yep. Good people that want to talk.
We had a bunch of guys there. Made us feel right at home. Treated us like kings when we did our yeah, we're new fish in the pool, and all and Andrew made me feel like I was yeah, the biggest guy in the world. Great guys. I can't say enough good things about them. And knowledgeable too. You know, they'll walk
I
around.
haven't had a chance to meet Andrew yet. I got to meet him
Andrew's a
sometime.
great dude. James, they just treated you like that because you look like Alan Moore. They were confused.
He and Charles, man, that's my good old friend, man, from back in the
Alan Moore
day.
guy is pretty ugly. I don't know. Talented but ugly. Maybe
Nah, man, you're better looking than Alan Moore, man. Have you seen Alan Moore these days, man? He just gets scarier and scarier every day,
That's
man.
what I mean. He looks like a zombie with a facial hair.
Whew. He's still the great one.
He's the man.
Yeah, definitely a god as a
Couple of
writer.
loose screws as far as I know, but still,
That I have in common. Definitely.
you gotta have loose screws to make good comics, I guess.
Hey, listen,
Yeah, I definitely. I'm listening to a few myself. Hey, Izzy, do you have like a portfolio site or anything?
I'm working on doing that stuff because a lot of the stuff I have is a lot of the older stuff I have, but I'll definitely show you some stuff. Well, offline,
Cool.
I'll show you some stuff. Yeah, definitely. I can show you some stuff offline.
Cool.
All right, guys. So let me let you guys go, but don't you guys go back to the lobby. Don't hang up, as we say. And let me just end up this show here. All right, guys. There you have it. Thank you for watching this show. For those of you who are watching live, again, thank you for putting those thumbs up. Again, you can find Fugitive Poems Comics. Go check them out. They're all over social media. I'll see you guys in the Queen's Comic Party on Saturday. I'm going to be there, guys. So I have a lot of stuff ready for you guys. A lot of free giveaways to go. And they're also going to be in Terrific Con. So until next time, guys, I'll see you in the Izzyverse. Bye.